Lies crushed. SNP declares independent Scotland should not pay the UK's £1.8 trillion share of the national debt. The heads of the SNP have acknowledged that they will leave the UK government and do not accept a fair share of the UK's debts if they become independent after an independence referendum. MP Alison Thewliss, shadow premier of the SNP, backed the comments by Senior Nat Roger Mullin, who claimed Scotland was not responsible for the historic debt caused by the UK government. The stance is in stark contrast to the recommendations of the SNP in the White Paper on Independence from 2014. Published under Mr Salmond's leadership, the newspaper said an independent Scotland would receive a negotiated and agreed portion of the UK's debt. But Mr Mullin, who was MP for Kirkcaldy from 2015 to 2017, told the Scotland's Choice podcast, "Scots' debt position at the moment is entirely the UK's responsibility. It comes after the Treasury Department's Funding Transparency Foundation revealed the UK government has provided an extra £14.5 billion to Scotland since the start of the pandemic. This support includes funding for the senior programme, for which SNP ministers have requested an extension, support for the self-employed and assistance for businesses." Following record COVID-19 funding, the UK's national debt is estimated to be around £1.8 trillion. Following the comments, opposition parties in Holyrood accused the SNP of selling out bizarre fantasies to Scots. Daniel Johnson MSP, finance spokesman for Scottish Labour, added, "This is fictitious economics from the SNP." Faced with the weakness of the economic case for independence, some senior SNP figures have ignored their feelings and are now selling bizarre fantasies to the public. Liz Smith MSP, finance spokesman for the Scottish Conservative Party, added, "We have access to a world-leading vaccine programme because we are part of the UK and close to 1 million jobs. Has been covered by the Treasury Department's deepening plan." Prior to the referendum in 2014, the SNP agreed an independent Scotland would take on a portion of the UK's debt. So these comments from Alison Thewliss and Roger Mullin are completely outlandish compared to what the SNP has said before, even more so when they come in the middle of the pandemic. Pamela Nash, Scotland's Chief Executive Officer at Union, said, "How the SNP perfected it. Telling voters that Scotland is leaving the UK with all the benefits and no costs is intentionally misleading and completely dishonest. It's time for the SNP to tell the truth to voters." It comes after a report by the Institute of Government revealed soaring deficits and difficult policy choices in the form of tax cuts or increases would be the card for an independent Scotland. The report published earlier this year also suggested that Scotland's fiscal deficit could reach 25% of GDP as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, questioning Scotland's independence.